Well, this is a very loaded question, you might say. Music, painting, literature, the arts are never appreciated. And jazz is music, is an art, which was never appreciated, probably less than other arts even, because it came from a minority group mainly, were its main practitioners. And a lot of these artists, they felt, well, I'm not welcome. People don't understand my art. They don't appreciate my art. And hey, I can go to Europe. The people in Europe love jazz. Ever since James Reese Europe was over there during the First World War. Wow. They appreciate jazz. They look at jazz as a legitimate art form. So wow, maybe I'll have a more appreciation of my art. And so a lot of guys left to be appreciated for what they thought was great work, which was, in my opinion, great work. And so the exodus began. And you find a lot of people going over there, many jazz artists. That's basically, that started. And Don Byas was one of these great players. You know, I remember when I was going to high school, there used to be a record store in the 42nd Street subway station that had all the pictures of all the jazz musicians. It was a photographer named Popsy. And he had all of the guys, and there was a great picture he had of Don Byas, you know, sort of on the set, and he's looking up and he's there with his son. And, but anyway, yeah, Don Byas was one of the great people that left the United States and hoping to get his music appreciated.
Now, obviously, Sidney Bechet became a national hero in France. What about these other gentlemen, like Don Byas and Dexter Gordon and Johnny Griffin? They were your friends. Do you think they were happier because they moved to Europe?
That's a difficult question. Someone that was closer to me was the pianist Kenny Drew, who went to Europe and eventually settled in Europe. Was he happier in Europe?
Did they get more recognition than they would in the United States?
Well, the recognition Kenny, of course, coming from the United States, gave you your imprimatur. That was you see, oh, they knew you were great. He's from the United States. In other words, if there was a Kenny Drew that was born in Denmark, he wouldn't be appreciated if they played at the same level. Of course, so part of Kenny's and these other people, they came from the United States. The United States is the home of this art form. I mean, I'm not a historian, but much of jazz seems to have originated in the United States. So let's go with that for the moment. So these people from the United States were always looked up to in Europe as being more legitimate and being the true expressors of this art. So Kenny Drew and these people, your question was, are they happy in Europe?
They left the United States for, the reasons that you stated. Did they find peace and some form of peace and happiness?
Well, that's a difficult question. Ben Webster, the great saxophonist, the great tenor saxophonist, one of our greats. Ben Webster was sort of not very happy with his life, from what I can discern, when he was in the States. And when I saw him in Europe, I don't think he had still. So what Ben Webster was looking for was something maybe a little different than recognition of his art. I think everybody in Europe and the United States, they all recognize Ben Webster. But Ben Webster said, tell somebody a quote like when he was in Europe, he always seemed to be sort of sad to me, looking sad. I mean, that he was not fulfilled in certain, but he told somebody one time, he said, house, country, dog. That's what I think he really wanted. Family, house, country, dog. He wanted that. That's my understanding, and he didn't achieve that. So his case might be, he went to Europe like somebody would go to any other place, not necessarily for the musical appreciation. That orchestra, he broke the color barrier and they were happy to have him. It was him and people like Cozy Cole who were able to get into these higher paying, more prestigious, perhaps you may say, jobs that a lot of other jazz musicians didn't get into. So, I mean, we may be trying to lump all the jazz musicians together in this big melange. It's not, they're all separate.
Right.
Basically, they went to Europe because jazz was appreciated in Europe.
When was the first time you played outside the United States?
Well, I played in Canada. I don't know, would you consider that outside?
When was the first time you played outside North America?
Okay, I played in the 1950s. I went as my first sojourn out of the Continental. I played in Europe and in Japan. I'm not sure which of those came first, but it was in the 50s.
And this was your own group, or did you go as a solo and pick up musicians?
Well, that's an interesting question. When I went to Japan, I probably had my own group. Although I'm not, again, I don't want to be exactly, because I'm not going to be exact. I don't remember exactly. But I can say this to your question. It was always my intention and my desire to have my own group. And I remember I used to talk to my friend Sonny about that. Sonny ended up in a position where he had to often play with the musicians from wherever he was, whatever country he was in. And, so he lamented that, and we both did. We wanted to have our own band, of course. So I can only say that that was usually my intent to have my own band. I might have been in situations where that didn't happen. Sorry. I did have I was in Holland one time, and I had a band with Pim Jacobs and a very fine drummer who's Han Bennick. And I remember it was a trio, since you know I like to, it's my wont to play trio. Anyway, we played together. I think I don't know how I got those guys, whether I was over there without a band, so I might have ended up getting them in that case. But generally, I try to have my own band.
Well, the Ronnie Scott's gig, I guess it was 64, 65, whatever that was, where you were there for about a month.
Right.
And you played with British musicians.
Right.
I forget somebody, I forget the piano player. Stan Tracy and Rick Laird. And I forgot the drummer.
Ron Jefferson, maybe.
Was it Ron Jefferson? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but he was one of the European musicians I played with.
Where I'm going with this.
Okay.
This music came from America, mainly from African American musicians. It spread out around the world. The message of the music has been heard by musicians in every country who want to play it. In the beginning, Americans were looked up to, and most music, the most respected music that was played in these foreign countries was played by American musicians. Time goes on, the musicians become better. You could go to London and play with these three musicians who could come pretty close to the American standard. Now, it seems as if there's less work for Americans in many places because local musicians, the level has risen, and whatever they've done to fuse jazz and their culture into their music finds them much more popular. What are your feelings about this? I know we want our American friends to work, obviously, but it seems as if jazz is becoming a global form now.
What do I feel about that?
Yeah.
USA, 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 USA. Well, music, no, that's great. That's it. It's great. Jazz is, it's music. We can play in China. We can play in Mongolia. People all over, you said it yourself, people all over the world love the music loosely called jazz. And so I'm glad the Europeans, it's no problem to me. I have no, of course, at this point I'm a dinosaur, so everybody comes to see me because they want to see how a dinosaur looks. But for younger musicians, maybe it may be more, that may have an impact. I don't know what you're saying. Well, now European musicians, they've learned all of jazz. That might be true. I don't know. I can't really give an informed whether that's a good thing or it's a bad thing or whether it's a natural thing. I really haven't thought that through. Automatically, right off of my pointed head, I would say it's a good thing. Because it's about the music. We can't get involved in politics. That's a whole thing. That's why music has to be above politics. That's why a lot of those guys went, because they wanted to get away from politics and have jazz the music, the art, reign supreme. So that's, if you're saying now, well, gee, now all the Europeans are putting Americans out of work musically, well, then it's sort of a political thing, and,
Right.
and I don't want to go there. I think it's not necessary.
Right.
The music has, with all of the great people, John Coltrane, Louis Armstrong, Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, the music has been established. There's no reason why we can't take it further. Yusuf Lateef told me one time, he said, well, Sonny, these guys that came before us, they didn't want us to do exactly what they were doing. They wanted us to do something else. Now, I took that at face value and said, okay, well, that's, it could be for a lot of reasons. They may think, oh, I don't know what, but in a positive sense, they want the music to grow organically, like a plant, like something that's alive. Jazz is alive. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to play like the great Sidney Bechet to be accepted today. And that's good. So I don't want to impose some sort of a restriction on somebody that's European and they're not. This to me is sort of a, it's sort of going down the wrong bend in the roads.